Hello, my fellow chatterers and book lovers, and anyone else who's popped in because you're curious or you've got a bit lost. Welcome anyway. I am Chatty, currently in my final appearance as Reindeer, as I'm going to be chatting away madly about my December wrap-up, including the Reindeer Readathon, the Havoc-athon, and the ORILLIUM Lightfall small readathon thing. I'm sorry, it's been a while since I've filmed anything. This is my first video for before Christmas. I think the last videos I did before I succumbed to croaky, sore throaty coldiness. Yeah, it was a few days before Christmas. And now it is January the 4th. So happy New Year, everybody. I hope you had a wonderful festive time. I hope people have been well and be able to enjoy time with friends and family. So yeah, I feel a bit out of practice, so it could be a bit more chaotic and crazy than usual. And I can't take myself seriously in the hood, so it's going down. You can't. These are reindeer antlers, little red reindeer antlers. There we go. Where are we going with this? Let's do the gimmick and move on quickly, shall we? So cheers, everybody. I don't edit on my channel. It is one shot. I keep rolling and I hope for the best, but you're going to have to embrace the waffle, everyone. I just feel it's going to be very waffly today. I have books to go through. I have readathons to discuss. And one of those books is Hob, and you know what I get like with Hob. There's going to be many thoughts, and I have no notes to try and put me into some sort of system. It is just blah spiel spewing from my mouth. So there will be timestamps. So feel free, if there's a book you're interested in hearing my thoughts on, do feel free to skip ahead and not have to sit through my waffle on many things. But cheers, everyone. And I have going with the last Christmassy vibes as I do my December wrap up. I have borrowed one of my children's very festive mugs, which is, we have Father Christmas, we have icy mountains, and rather funky zebra here wearing fairy lights, which is quite cool. And it's Christmas tea. Yeah, perfect temperature for me to drink. That is wonderful. So I may croak. The sore throat has not gone completely, but at least I have more energy now, which is great. And I got off lightly compared to lots of people. I feel very lucky that I was able to recover. Thank you all for your lovely messages, saying get well and all of that. It really warmed my heart, so thank you for all of that. Let's crack on with books, because that is what this channel is for. So I'm going to start with the Reindeer Readathon, because it was the big one that I did. There were 9 books that I was hoping to fill. So I was Team Nutcracker. We came 4th, I think. It was very close from what I did. Congratulations, Team Stocking. Well done with all your wonderful reading. I did manage to submit my points this time, so yay. All points were added in for Team Nutcracker, so that was good. But my TBR went through quite a lot of changes. So this was what it originally looked like. This is the test of my reindeer knowledge again. Dasher. For Dasher, it was read a final book in a series, and I intended to read Fool's Fate, which is the final book in the Tourneyman trilogy by Robin Hobb, which is, of course, a fantasy. Then we had Dancer, which was a book with swirly writing, and as you can see, the A and the H on All the Wandering Light, which is a YA polar fantasy. That was my choice for that one. Shadow Sea was Prancer, because it has a bit of a spring-like, and I went for spring as my favourite season. And then this one I always struggled with. So this is Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen. Vixen, read an overhyped book. I find that hard, because if I think something is overhyped, then I don't necessarily feel that I'm going to like it and love it and want to read it. Whereas if I feel the hype is justified, I'm going to read it. So I feel Saboteur's the Ember Quartet, maybe not so much now, but a few years ago it felt very hyped. I heard a lot about it everywhere. So I had the 3rd book in that series, Reaper of the Gates, in that prompt. The Comets have a book with a cosmic word in the title, and I have Even the Darkest Stars, which is again fantasy. And then it was Cupid, which was read a book with a trope you love, and I had intended to read Twice We Make Magic by Sarah Driver, which is the second book in a middle grade series. And this trope is portal fantasy and had sisters involved, so I was excited for that. Then it was read a book. Donna was read a book with a cover you don't like, and for that I had Fierce Femmes and Notorious Liars, which I wasn't sure of the category of this one. I kind of thought it was a contemporary, but I'll come on to that later. But I really wasn't a fan of the cover. I'm just the flies crawling across it kind of creeps me out. It's very busy and I just don't like these white lines across it. So wasn't a fan of the cover, so that fitted perfectly. Then Blitzen was really fun and chaotic. It was you had to do a random number pick and the book has to finish with that number. So I pulled out to 2, so I had to read any book that ended in a page count of 2. And the girl who speaks bear, as you can see, here is page 411, which means this is the final page because here is a glossary. 412 is the one it finished on. And finally, Rudolph was read a book in a new series. Yes, start of a new series. And so I chose the first book in the Once We Were Witches series by Sarah Driver, which is linked to Twice We Make Magic. And this is a middle grade fantasy. So that was my plan. It did not go to plan. I was moving and shaking it all around. So I spoke about this in my week 1 and 2 wrap up. So I moved things around. I started the month reading The Golden Fool because this was what I should have read in November and didn't. And this is the second book in the Tawny Man trilogy. So because I needed to read this, I wasn't sure if I'd get to this one. So I didn't really feel like I could commit to having that as the end of the series. So instead, I put Shadowsea in the Dasher prompt because Shadowsea is the end of the Cogheart Quartet, which is a middle grade historical magical realism. I didn't intend to include I Capture the Castle in the readathon. I was wanting to read this because of the FOMO book club, but I did end up just, when I was going to read a certain amount of chapters, I ended up just continuously reading because it just pulled me in. And this has got a spring-like quality to it, so that became the Prancer prompt. So we're going to put that in there. And I wasn't sure where I was going to put The Golden Fool, because it could fit under many prompts. And after I did quite a lot of changes, but eventually The Girl Who Speaks Bear, I knew I actually wanted to read in January because it fits in with some January plans that I have. And I actually ended up pulling it in my January TBR for one of the prompts, so that went well. But wonderfully, what can we see here? The final page number at the end of the book. Let's not show you any words. 712. Again with the 12. But yeah, 712. The Golden Fool fits. So that became my Blitzen. And then what else did I swap in and out? Yeah, I Reaper at the Gate. This is a biggie. This is a biggie book. And I'm interested in the series. I'm enjoying the series. But I was reading quite a lot of YA fantasy. This is also YA fantasy. You know, my favourite series at the moment going on is the Realm of the Eldlings. So between the two of these big books, it was always going to be Fool's Fate that was going to win over Reaper at the Gate. So I'm really sorry. This has been pushed back. I am buddy reading this with Anitha from Anitha Garde and Miss Winchester and Stacey. But I don't actually know how far any of them have actually got with this series. I've read 2. There hasn't been a lot of chat going on. So I think everyone's been prioritising different things. But hopefully we'll all pick this up again this year and maybe we'll read alongside. Maybe I should talk to them. Maybe I should talk to them and say, when are you guys planning on carrying on? Because I'll try and join in then. But for now, I'm just kind of shelving this series for a little bit because it's just not fitting in to things that I've got coming up. And I'm really trying to not overread and just, it's okay. It doesn't matter. I don't have to read everything. It's okay. It will get read and that's fine. So Reaper at the Gate and the Ember in the Ashes Quartet is just going to be put to the side for now. And I did read Fool's Fate. So that went in for the Vixen prompt, because in my corner of the booktube, in my fantasy corner, Hob is hyped. Hob is hyped, but the hype is real, okay? Anyone who disagrees, well, I just think you're wrong. I just think you're wrong. The Hob hype is real. It's amazing. It's wonderful. So that fit into the Vixen category, because I'm just going with general hype. Just general well-known book. But I feel Hob should be more hyped, and there should be more, you know, it should be raised higher. Hob should be raised higher for the glory and wonder that she has. Oh, there's still one more change to make. Because of what I was reading at the time, my brain was a bit mush, and also how I was feeling at the time. So I picked this up to start reading it. But it reminds me, so it sounds a bit strange, but it reminds me of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, in that it's that kind of quirky, random, crazy stuff happening that's just read as though it's normal everyday occurrence. That's kind of how this felt. Not as fully that, but on those lines. It was kind of giving me that kind of zany fantasy mixed with kind of, yeah, so I'm not entirely sure. That's why I meant, like, I really don't know the exact genre for this one, because I thought it was going to be contemporary. It turns out there's kind of a fantastical element to it as well, but it's like zany fantasy, and I'm like, I need to be in the right mood to appreciate this. If I read this now, I'm not going to appreciate this because my brain can't cope with zany fantasy right now. So I will read this at another point in my life. I'm just gonna, again, I'm not going to reshelve it because it's a library book. I'm just going to give it back to the library, and I will get it out again when I'm in that right mood and right headspace for zany fantasy. So that one had to go. And I think also because this book has been on my list of, I really need to read this before the end of the year, and that is Rabble of Drabbles and Doodles by Wen Clark, which is a collection of kind of pieces. I'm calling them pieces because some feel like short stories, some feel more like poetry, but each section is 100 words. Like the way this has been done, which I will go into when I talk more about it, is everything's been kind of kept to 100 words. So this was like, it was very easy to kind of pick up and put down because of the nature of the book. And there's nothing wrong with the front cover. It's just not my favourite, just because it is so simple. It is just white with the title and swirlies around the title, and that's it. It's very clean, but it doesn't excite me, I think. So that's why it fits quite nicely under the Donna prompt of a cover that I'm not that excited about. So there we go. This is my final Reindeer Readathon. We have Dasher is Shadow Sea, Dancer is Still, or The Wandering Light, Prancer is I Capture the Castle, Vixen is Fool's Fate by Robin Hobb, Even the Darkest Stars is Comet, Cupid is Twice We Make Magic, Donna is A Rabble of Drabble and Doodles, Blitzen is The Golden Fool, and Rudolph It Remains Once We Were Witches. So there we go. Did I complete it all? Just. I was very close. But it was a bit too much at the end. I finished Fool's Fate in the beginning of January. Can't exactly remember when, because I'll come on to that again, but I kind of did a bit of a speed read and then went back and reread. So it wasn't finished in December, so I didn't count it in the Reindeer Readathon points, but I'm counting it in the December wrap-up because I mainly read it in December. So there we go. That is Reindeer Readathon. I'm now going to talk through the other readathons just very briefly. For ORILLIUM, the Lightfall, I only kind of had one book that kind of fitted into that week, and that was Even the Darkest Stars. So yes, I read this one. I think I was, the 18th. So it ended on the Sunday when I'd actually gone to Disneyland Paris, which was amazing, and a bit unexpected. And I was supposed to be finishing off 2 books that I didn't end up finishing off. So yeah, the only one that counted within ORILLIUM is Even the Darkest Stars. Oh my goodness, this is waffly. I'm so sorry, everyone. Feel free to skip it on. But yes, ORILLIUM, Even the Darkest Stars was a fantasy. So I hung out in Wallace's Wonderful Wanimals shop, and I did enjoy a trip to the Pigeon pub, the Rich Pigeon pub. And I did enjoy reading. It wasn't actually this book, it was kind of after ORILLIUM Lightfall had ended, but I did enjoy the kind of ambiance. There's a special word for it, but like G created this like scene, so you had like this visual of the shops and the sound effects of people kind of chatting and snow falling and music, and it was just really atmospherical. So I had that up on my phone whilst I was reading, not this one actually, I was reading All the Wandering Light, and kind of just really enjoying all those vibes. So that brings me on to the Havoc-athon, and I did not do very well at all at Havoc-athon. It just really didn't happen for me. So yeah, so there were just 5 prompts for Havoc-athon. I can't even remember what they were. There was read like a fantasy or a horror or something, so I did that, and that was the Golden Fool. I did fantasy, so I read adult epic fantasy, The Golden Fool by Rabblevof, and then it was read a book by a BIPOC author, and I failed miserably at this. I only had one on my list this time, so it was only one global majority author, which was Sabah Tahir, and I ended up not reading Reap of the Gates, so my bad. I was focusing on finishing off series and getting series in, and it didn't happen, but it's okay. We will move on. We have new goals, we have new aspirations for the coming year, and it's all fine, but I didn't hit that one. I did read LGBTQ plus rep book. That is a Rabble of Drabbles and Doodles, because it has LGBTQ plus rep in that book. And I think then there was read a mystery or a thriller, and I was intending to read Danger at Dead Man's Pass, but again it didn't happen. I was really hoping there was an audiobook for this available at the library. They have every book in this series available on audio, apart from this one. So this did not get read. This is going to be going back to the library unread, and I'll be getting it out again later in the year. It's probably a good thing, because this is the 4th book, which I'm reading before the 3rd book, because I wanted the winter vibes. But I probably should read the 3rd book first and then the 4th book. Anyway, it's going back. I'm not going to be reading Cozy Train Mysteries yet. I've now moved on from that need as well. I'm kind of fully immersed in fantasy, and finishing series at the moment is kind of what I'm feeling. So at the time of pulling things out, I was kind of really up for another cozy winter mystery, but it didn't happen, and it's okay. And then it was read a book with red on the title, and for that I had Fool's Fate, because as you can see the title is written in red here. Fool's Fate is written in red. But I didn't finish that fully, and that extended into January, so I didn't read that one. So I did 2 of the 3 prompts. And I didn't watch a festive film either, because films are dictated by my children, and when I have free time I read. Yeah, me and my husband didn't have the opportunity to sit down and watch a film. We watched some TV series instead. But the films my children watched, we watched Frozen, which is sort of a bit Christmassy because it's snowy. But we didn't end up watching. They both refused to watch Muppets Christmas Carol because they're crazy and clearly are fairy born and are not actually my children. What's the word? There's a word, and I used to call my brother all the time to kind of annoy him. There's a word where a changeling. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, they're changelings, and not actually my children. They must have been switched by fairies. The Muppets Christmas Carol is like the best Christmas film. It's amazing. My eldest loved it when he was 2. He was singing Marley and Marley in his cot. Then one year he decided he found them scary with the chains and the doorknob. And to be fair, the door knocker is quite scary, and I am scared of the Ghost of Christmas Future. But other than that, it's great. But we didn't end up watching it. So that was a shame. I tried to persuade my 5-year-old he wanted to watch it, but he was like, no, No, I don't. And we ended up watching The Phantom Menace instead, and it was very much a Star Wars focused film time. So there we go. Apparently Star Wars isn't scary, but Muppets are. So there we are. I did love watching Star Wars with them, but we just weren't very festive. So I will try and enforce Christmassy themed things again next year. We watched Stickman. Does that count? Do you love Stickman? I love Stickman. Stickman's great. I'm going to count We watched Stickman. I'm counting it. There we go. 3 prompts for Havoc-athon. If you've not seen Stickman, you should see Stickman. Okay. It's done. We have done the readathons. Let's talk about the books. I mean, good luck if anyone's still watching, because this does just feel completely mental this time round. What book did I read? No, Once We Were Witches. That was the one that I read the most recently. So if you missed my other videos, I have already spoken about Shadowsea and I Capture the Castle and the Golden Fall and even the Darkest Stars. I will put links here should you wish to watch those. That links for my playlist of wrap-ups, and if you want to hear my thoughts on them, you can do. It's your choice. You have free will. Aren't you so lucky? Once We Were Witches is a wonderful middle grade by Sarah Driver. I love this book so much. I read it last year. I read it again. The reread was just delightful. I just fell in love with it all over again. I love Spell. I love the sisters. I love the magic in here. I love a lot of all the worlds and things that we went into. Sadly, my children were jumping on the bed, knocked some water by my bedside table over, and this was the book that was on my bedside table, and that happened. Sad times, because we've got, look, this lovely signed and says happy reading. But Potatoes Away on the middle grade Mad Chat Discord did point out, look, they made it look magical. So now all the wrinkled water pages make it look spellbooky. So there we go. It has amazing illustrations in here. So look, we have this beautiful map. I also really like the author is local. So a lot of this is set in Sussex. We have Arundel Cathedral here. And there's a lot of kind of like, no, that's the next book. Shh. And we have all these wonderful tree things around the corner, and then we have the spell at the beginning. And let me find a nice illustration. Here they are. So here is the school for wicked girls. They are all in their orphanage uniforms, being downtrodden by the mistresses and told they are terrible. And the girls have weird things happen, and the weird things are frowned upon, because magic is outlawed and witches have been abolished and hunted out. So no witches, the hunter in charge, and our two protagonists, Egg, short for Megan, and Spell, short for Elspeth, are in this school. And Megan is a rule flouter, and Spell is a rule follower. She wants to keep her head down. She just wants to earn her soul and go on to try and live a normal life as quickly as possible. Whereas Egg has a lot of anger in her that kind of results in mischief. I'm trying to see if I've got a good picture of the sisters here. So here we go. We have Spell and we have Egg there. And this has been illustrated by Fabi Santiago, and I love her illustrations. They're brilliant. So many things that I love about this book. It's split into 3 parts. We have the school, we have a place they go after the school, and then an unexpected place that was so much fun. And yeah, and that's all I'm going to say about this. I really highly recommend this book. There is a follow-up, which I will talk about in just a moment. But I think you can read this as a one-off. I think you can just read it as a one-off if you want to, because the story is wonderful how it is, and it feels very hopeful at the end. It ends in a good place, and I think you will all enjoy it. If you like middle grade and if you like fantasy, obviously. If neither of those are your things, then maybe not. I didn't read this one next, but I'm going to talk about it next. So this is Twice We Make Magic, which is the follow-up to Once We Were Witches. This was so highly anticipated by me because of how much I love Once We Were Witches. It's even been personalised. Oh, my bookmark's still in there. Look, I had Amelia Fang bookmark for reading Twice We Make Magic. I thought that was very appropriate. There we go. Look, it's been signed for Charlotte. Happy reading. So that's really cool. So it's a bit smaller than the other one. Again, beautiful cover from Fabi. And I just love, we've got a foiled spell book that Egg is holding. We've got the water well that kind of looks a little bit like a cauldron. We've got tendrils of smoky bits coming out. We've got this dragon coming here. We've a little silver crow on the Twice We Make Magic. We've got more of the dragon around here, and then an owl. It's very cool. And again, we've got some fabulous illustrations in here. So the spell for this one is ingredients for a spell. A coven of girls once wicked, hiding in a funeral home. A missing undertaker, a trainee in residence, a cat who seems to know. Heirloom tapestries infused with stolen magic, a tree whose roots taste every realm, ghosts demanding ice cream, a rookery sheltering a hangman, bone broth and rook eggs, burrows, 13 moons, a shadowborn girl dwelling above a tomb. I love all of the spell things, kind of set it off. It really gives you a flavour of the book and makes you excited and hyped. But I did know that Vadania read this first. We were going to read it at the same time, but it didn't happen. But she read this first and she was very quiet about it and said she didn't enjoy it as much as the first. And then she said, maybe I need to reread it. Maybe if you say it's amazing, I'll reread it. And I just really felt that she didn't enjoy it, which made me worried and made me sad. And I think there was like halfway through, I was really enjoying it. I really enjoyed the coven feel to it. I enjoyed the practicings of magic. I enjoyed seeing more of some characters from previously that were fun. I enjoyed expanding the world. But I was then wanting more and I didn't get more. And as we kind of got more into it, it felt, in terms of the structure of the book, it felt a bit back and forth. I felt we needed to spend more time in certain places to really absorb it more. But it did feel that time was difficult. And there were lots of things going on. So there's a kind of a portal fantasy aspect of this. There is Spell's own growth as a witch. There is the coven as a whole. There is a relationship between the sisters. There is the anti-witchcraft feeling around them. There is what has been missing since the last book. There is more kind of mystery to, not so much, but a little bit of mystery to the girl's parentage. And I think it was only kind of Spell's growth that was really explored. So I really love the character of Spell. I think she's fantastic. I just loved her a lot. She's having to deal with a lot. She's having to deal with a lot of, I suppose, kind of prejudice. So she was very much seen as a shadow to her sister when they were at school. And then now, since her adventures in Once We Were Witches, everyone's kind of having to try and deal with a new Spell. Like, she's not the girl she was. She's more fully aware of herself, and she's not just going to be as meek and continue. And I think that was a lot for some of the characters to kind of come to terms with, especially Egg. And I think also there was a lot of kind of communication difficulties between Egg and Spell that made me feel sad. We didn't see that sisterly bond that had been developed in the first one kind of grow past where they were. They kind of went backwards because of adding all the other characters back. So they kind of went back to where they were at school, where Egg had her best friend and was off doing things with her, and Spell was kind of on the sidelines. Because they then got the coven back, they kind of went back to that. And I was hoping we'd then break out of that and the sisters would have a heart-to-heart and would talk about it, but we didn't get those conversations, which made me feel sad. We also didn't get conversations with the Coven about how they were treating Spell and had misjudged her. That wasn't really explored. It was kind of just slightly alluded to, and that was it. I had a lot of questions at the end. Everything seemed to wrap up quite quickly, and I wanted more time with exploring where all these plot points kind of came from. So I just wanted more, basically. So I feel the urge to write to Sarah Driver, because there is an epilogue at the end of this. And I don't know if it's the publishers going, we're allowed 2 books for the series and then we want something else from you, or if it was her going, I think this is like, I'm done with this and I want to wrap it up. But I just felt there was so much more to explore. Like, we've got more. I wanted more time with the anti-witch feeling. I enjoyed exploring that kind of the witch hunt idea. I kind of enjoyed this like modern day witch hunt, really, and just I wanted them to like prove themselves to the townsfolk that they'd been misjudged and actually they weren't wicked and witchcraft is for the good of the land. And I wanted more exploration and coming together of that. I felt we needed some sort of human characters to spend time with and have some of the girls kind of having interactions kind of undercover with them, and then them finding out they were witches. That's the kind of thing I was wanting. And I'd have loved if we had this, because this is what's alluded to in this book. So it being set in Sussex. Sussex was the last part of Britain. So it was like, no, it was Wessex. Sorry. Wessex, which is the way the land was kind of divided up in old Saxony times. I'm not a historian, I'm sorry, it's very basic. But basically, when the Vikings took over England, there was a small area that held on to their Saxon beliefs, and they had a Christian faith and did not believe in the Viking gods, and they kind of withheld against the Viking rule that had kind of taken over the rest. So I kind of wanted that kind of echoing, but with Sussex, of this kind of like everyone else being anti-witch, and then having this one holding that was like, you're wrong about this magic, and just kind of holding the lines. I kind of wanted that aspect to it, and I think that would be really cool to explore in another book, having like Spell going into another portal and exploring another realm and having kind of links between that realm and the world again, but also having things from Egg's point of view, and Egg kind of leading along with the Coven this fight against, you know, trying to prove themselves that they look, we are normal humans as well as having magical powers, but we're not evil. I wanted that. I wanted to explore more where this anti-witch feeling kind of came from, because in Once We Were Witches, that's alluded to by a past character, and I wanted like their history to be explored and to kind of have where's this all come from. And yeah, I just wanted more, basically. But I did love Spell. I did love a lot of the kind of the magical concepts in here. I just felt we just didn't have enough time, and I just wanted to explore it more. So yeah, there was a lot of kind of world building magic, but I didn't feel like I completely understood all of it. There was a lot to take in, so I felt a little bit like my brain was a bit frazzled. Also, I felt a little bit sad that I didn't love it as much as I wanted to love it. So that was that. However, what I did love was the sequel to Even the Darkest Stars, which is All the Wandering Light. And I need a cup of tea because I've been talking for quite a lot. It's on the cold downward spiral now. Still nice and Christmassy though. Okay, so All the Wandering Light picks up exactly where Even the Darkest Stars finished, and actually I recommend, if you're reading this duology, just read them together. I don't think you gain anything from having a space between them. They do very much feels like just pick up the next book and read. It feels like a duology you should just read back to back. I definitely, I feel that's the way I'm always going to read it, because the stories just feel so connected together. So Camden has quite a weighty task ahead of her. You still spend a wonderful time out in the outdoors, in the cold, in the mountains, on that questing kind of feeling, but a slight change in the travelling companions. So I enjoyed, I'm trying to not say too much without spoiling it, I enjoyed the relationships in here, all the different relationships, friendships, family relationships, romantic relationships. I enjoyed them all in here. I thought they were great. It's exactly what I wanted. And I thought it worked really well. There wasn't anything that was just completely straightforward. There was always kind of like two slightly different, there's always kind of a bit of conflict, but not annoying conflict. Like usually it drives me up the wall when I'm like, just keep it simple, just stop complicating everything. Whereas it all felt very normal and natural, and I just enjoyed them. I thought they were really well done. And I'll go into a bit more detail about them in a moment. But the atmosphere in here, again, was wonderful. The magic felt wonderful. If you enjoy, not fully whimsical, but it was kind of like adventure quest with a bit of whimsy in an atmospherical setting, with some fun characters. If that sounds like your vibe, I think you'll really, really enjoy this. It's a polar fantasy YA duology by Heather Fawcett. Polar fantasy is basically fantasy that's in a winter setting, is essentially what it is. There is magic in here. There was slightly more magic than there was in the first one, I think. No, I'd say it was about the same. I suppose it was just how it was dished out. But I enjoyed all the magical elements to this. I enjoyed the kind of history and lore that was explored in this. And it was just a really fun read. It was just really, really fun. So yeah, I just recommend it. I'm going to go into a little bit more spoilers with this, just because I want to talk about a couple of things. So it's mild spoilers. I'm just going to be talking about characters' relationships. So if you want to read Even the Darkest Stars and you don't like your books, don't like knowing too much going in, maybe skip on ahead to the next one, because you will know what characters are in this one. Okay, bye. We're talking mild spoilers now. So as I said, the travelling companions changed. So in this book we have Kamsin, who is the younger daughter of the chieftain of this village. She hasn't got any magical abilities, but she is really skilled at climbing and navigating. So originally that's why she was on the quest, because she could make it to this particular inclimbable mountain. So there is lots of kind of there's lots of kind of descriptions of using ice picks and like grapplings and doing crazy things, like to quickly get somewhere, just literally letting everything go and kind of like steep sheer dropping down this cliff face and then whacking your axe in to stop your fall and slow you down. So there was a lot of kind of high adrenaline stuff going on. And she's just I really enjoyed her character. I thought she was, really well intentioned, very kind of normal and down to earth and able to express her emotions. Doesn't always make like well thought out choices, but you kind of love her for that kind of reckless edge in here. So we see her with her sister in this one a lot. So in the previous one she was kind of looking for her, in this one we see her with her, and I love their relationship. It's not easy. It is not a simple, straightforward kind of sister relationship. It's not like Jane and Lizzie Bennet. It's not that we love and respect each other and share. It is very much more of a kind of Eleanor and Marianne Dashwood, where the love is there, but they're very different people and see the world very differently and can't completely tell them their whole secrets, even though they love them. So I enjoyed the kind of love and respect, but also the fact that they're very open with how their sister drove them up the wall and were infuriating. So I enjoyed all of that. And you can see both of the sisters' viewpoints, and they talk about it, and they have confrontation, and then they resolve it. And I loved all of that stuff. The book still ends with them having different opinions, but it works well. I also enjoyed the friendship in here as well. And this is a bit where I was worried that it was going to be a bit love triangle or kind of like love cornery. And it wasn't. It was kind of open with how they kind of felt about each other, but it was very much kind of the friendship from Cam's inside. And it was very much, oh, is he called Tem? This is terrible. I can't remember his name now. Yeah, Tem. I have remembered his name. So Tem just being able to let go of those feelings and kind of hit more on the friendship side than on the romantic interest side. And both of their characters kind of go on a bit of a journey, especially Tem. So he's the son of a sheep cattle herder who was a player, and one of his babies was dropped off on his doorstep, basically. And so he was like, sure, I'm going to raise you to be my worker, second in command. And that is why I'm raising you, so you could help me with the farm. That is the reason I'm taking you in. So all of his life, that's what Tem's been dealing with. But actually, Tem has a natural ability with magic and should be the village shaman rather than Kamsin. And that really kind of comes into play with Tem really experimenting with his magic and kind of relishing his strength within it and finding his place with that and his comfortableness with that. So I enjoyed all of those relationships. And I enjoyed the relationship between Kamsin and River and their kind of antagonistic banter and exploration of two different sides going on in this. So I loved all of that. I loved all of the side characters. I loved all of the animal companions. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, All the Wandering Light, great time. Okay, 2 more books to talk about. I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time talking about A Rabble of Drabble and Doodles by Wen Clark because this is also on my leftover from August ORILLIUM read along. So this is one of my studies. So I will be doing my final 2 studies in a video for my segmented ORILLIUM segmented study segmented vlog thing that I do. So I'm just briefly going to talk about this. So what is so fun about this book is the way it has been pulled together. So Wen worked with a lot of artists to create drawings that were, I think, like 3 centimeters by 3 centimeters. I will show you an example here. So you have this picture and then you have this text. So both the picture and the text came from the same word, daisy, but then the artist has chosen one interpretation of daisy, and Wen from that word has created a piece of writing, but they have made themselves stick to our 100 word limit. So every drabble is 100 words, and each drabble is different. And I just find it amazing that within 100 words, you go on this little journey each time. So most of the time, I find reading the first few lines and think I know where it's going. And then by the end of it, it goes somewhere completely different. I'm like, okay, I'm now going to reread and see where you went. So then what I realized I started doing as I was reading was I would see the kind of the inspiration word. So in this one, we have echo, and here we have the artist's interpretation of echo. And then I would then read the writing, and then after I read it, I would see what title Wen gave that piece of writing, and I find that really enjoyable to kind of like see where it went. So there is a whole mix in this. Like, I cannot give it a genre because it includes so many. So the genre this goes in is like short story collection / poetry. There is fantasy elements in here, there is contemporary bits in here, there is personal writing in here, there is LGBTQ plus representation, there is disability representation in here, there is horror, there is thriller, there is humour, there is silliness, there is surrealness, there is zaniness. It's just very, very different. And it was just really enjoyable to kind of go through and just have no idea what was coming next. And you can read this in so many different ways. Like I was reading it like picking up, reading a few bits and then putting it back again. But for this, I wanted to read it from cover to cover and kind of feel it as a whole. So I will be going into kind of more details and kind of pulling out like some of my favourite Drabbles, some Drabbles that moved me, some Drabbles that I found took me to a completely unexpected place. So I will go through in that, and I will do again a non-spoiler and then a kind of more in-depth spoiler section to it as well. So finally, we come to the book that I am probably going to talk for ages on, but at the same time, I don't feel any words I have can do it justice, and that is Fool's Fate by Robin Hobb. And at the moment, as of the moment, I have read Farseer, I have read Life Ship Traders, and I have now completed Toyman. And I think the book I love the most is Fool's Fate, because of the emotional payoff in this book. So I love setup and payoff in my books. It's the thing that makes me the most happy, when we get setup, and then the payoff is what I wanted from the setup. Like the payoff is good. I like good payoff. Whether that is with plot, whether that is with mystery of something in the intrigue, whether that is with like a character arc. And in here, it was, I can't call it anything else other than emotional payoff. It is things with characters. So what I love in this book is how we have echoes of the Farseer trilogy coming through here, and just the way the whole kind of thing is just woven together by Hobb is just so masterful, and it's beautiful. There is so much beauty in this book. There is so much heart in this book. There is so much like bittersweet and love and just so much in here, and I just love it so much. Like there's just so many moments. I do not annotate books. I don't do it. I've never felt the slightest inclination to do it. I want to annotate the crap out of this book. I now want 3 copies of Hobb. I want the beautiful copy that sits on my shelf and looks stunning, and then when I'm treating myself to that, I'm going to sit and indulge myself in reading, and I'm going to enjoy the feel of the pages as the way I turn the book, and the smell of the book, and the sound of the spine as I open the book. When I do that, I want the pretty one. Having it in my bag and running around with it and it getting completely battered because I love it so much will be this copy. But I've never wanted to write in a book before. I don't even know if I could even bring myself to do it in this one, but I kind of do. Like just passages in here that I love so much. Like I want to tab, I want to mark, I want to draw all over it. And I've grown really fond of this particular copy. Like I wasn't sure if this was the copy I wanted. It was just, I just got it. That was the one that I got. And I've just fallen in love with it. I love the dragons. I love the ice. I love the blue around it. I haven't looked too closely at all the tiny illustrations. Maybe I should. But no. I'm not a fan of all the illustrations in here. But I just think it's given me a lot of comfort just seeing these dragons and the ice and everything that I know that is happening amongst here. And just the size of it as well. It is just a little paperback packed with so much. Packed with meat that I'm devouring. But then I would like more, because I could never then lend it if I just cover it in my blare of love. I couldn't lend that to someone because I'd be like, what the hell have you done to this book? Why have you defaced it? Why have you... Some people love getting a book that other people have written in because they like seeing other people's thoughts. But for some, it can just pull you out of the story and you're like, I just don't want to hear your thoughts. I just want my personal connection to this narrative. So I then want another set that I could lend to people. I don't have the room for that. I don't have that ability, but that's how I feel. So with this book, like I've said, with reading quite a lot of Hobb, you kind of get to a certain point and you feel you need just like a day to just immerse yourself in the rest of it. Like you don't want to stop reading. You there's been many books where I have paused halfway because I know the next time I pick that book up, I need to just sit and read to the end. I didn't pause in this one, which meant I did a crazy read through the night because I couldn't stop reading. I got to chapter 22, which was somewhere here. That's 18, so we're not too far off. 19, 20. Come on. Come on, the top chapters in here are very long. 22. So here we go. So I'd read that much. I had this much left. And I speed read it at night because I was like, I can't stop reading. I can't do it. I need to know stuff. I need to know. I had to chase that story down. I was like, I can't just put the book down. It's just, I'm sat. I think I kind of needed a drink, but I was like, but if I do that, I have to put the book down and go and get one. So I'm just going to read. And then it was just like, and because I was just reading and chasing the story down, it's like I couldn't properly emotionally react to things and take things in because I was just going. So once I'd like bashed it out, I was then like able to go, okay, I kind of get the gist of what went on now. Now I need to go back and read it properly because I just didn't fully take in the emotional impact. So then I went back and reread leisurely because I was no longer chasing down the story. I could fully take it all in and fully be there for those moments. And other than going, no, what? Hey, why? And oh my goodness, no, how did that happen? Oh, there's just so much going on. So yes, and I had a lovely time rereading and being able to sort through my emotions. I've had a wonderful time throwing my thoughts into Discord chats, and I had to brain splurge at Derry. If you are a Hob reader and you don't know Derry, I think you should by now. If you have been on my channel, I always talk about Derry when I talk about Hob. I will link her. Let's get over here. I'm just gonna link a Derry so you can just go find her, because if you need Hob support, she's there. She's got you. She's got you. She's here for you in your emotional Hob needs, and she will reassure you that it's okay. So I just needed to go bleh afterwards, and I got warm hugs in return. So that was very nice. Thank you, Derry. Thank you, Derry, for all of that. And I'm cannot wait for the live show, which is on my calendar, and I'll be live chatting in there. There's just so much. It's just so much in this book. Oh, can I even go into it now? Can I even go into it now? But if you're a Hob fan, this has got so much in it. There's just so much. So much. Right, I'll try and put some more into it. Parenting is a big thing in this. Things that have previously happened. There's like lots of kind of circular loops going on. There's a lot of White Prophet and Catalyst. There is a lot more lore explained, and kind of some of the stuff that was happening in the Farseer trilogy, we get to see kind of a little bit more of the stuff we didn't fully know in this. Things that were set up from live ships, we get more of dragon stuff. I mean, we've got dragons on the front here, obviously. So we get more of that in here. But it is characters we know and love. It's characters we know and love, and Fitz. And Fitz's arc, and Fitz's journey, and wit and skill. We get more of the wit and more of the skill. We get more things that were set up in the Golden Fool. We get more of that. This is very much a quest book. So just like in Farseer, where you had Royal Assassin being like the political book, you then had Assassin's Quest as the questy book. You kind of have a similar one in here. So you have Golden Fool. There's it takes a lot of place in Buckkeep and in the both in the castle, and there's lots of politicking. And in this one, we are on a quest. We are out there in the wilds questing away, and it was all delightful. And you can finish your Realm of the Elderlings journey here, should you wish to. I have no idea what it was like for everyone when they had this and it was like it was the end. I can see it being satisfactory for some, but knowing there's more story and knowing the way I feel about things, I'm like, there's certain things that I still want. I'm looking forward to that in Pips and the Fool. There's certain glimmerings that I kind of want from Rain Worlds, but I don't know, and I'm not going to set expectations on it. But oh my goodness, I'm looking forward to, but also not looking forward to reading Pips and the Fool. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot. Yeah. Where was I going with this? So yeah, so there was a big gap. I don't know what the gap was, but there was a big gap between this and then the series continuing. So that must have been so hard for readers at the time. It must have been so hard. Yeah. There's it's just a lot. That is all I can say about without spoiling it. And I think I'm going to leave it there. Surprisingly, I just don't feel that I can do it justice, and I just think you should all read this series. It's my favourite series ever. I love it so much. This is my favourite series, and I think this is my favourite book, and I'm just going to cuddle it. I'm just going to sit here and cuddle it, just stroke it and love it, and I just love this book. Yeah. And yeah, I'm getting over the whole hangover I had things lined up ready to read to help me through. And I'm still this story is still playing in my head. So definitely the live chat is going to help me come through that. I need to chat a lot on it. I have a lot to say about so many things, so many characters, so many things. I could just sit here and read quotes to you and say, this was beautiful, and I love this moment, and I love this. And if at any point you would enjoy a video of me just gushing over Fool's Fate, let me know and I will make that video. But in terms of people just kind of listening to my general opinions on books and whether or not they want to pick it up, I think that's all you kind of need to know from this. So I am going to leave it there. Oh, this has been a lot. I'm very happy to wrap up this December. It's been fun. Christmas has been lovely, despite illnesses. I just feel so excited about all the books I have yet to read and everything coming up. So it's been so delightful to just round off December, and I can't wait for what's in store. Happy reading, everyone. As always, if you like this, do give it a thumbs up. Please get chatty in the comments because you know I love to chat. I will be replying. That is happening. And I hope you all have a wonderful reading time. Happy reading, everyone.